In OFM, there's no such thing as too much marketing. The more exposure your model gets, the better. But one of the biggest mistakes agencies make is trying to do way too many different types of marketing. Time and time again, I see agencies splitting resources between 5 different marketing platforms, failing at all of them, and thinking that the solution is to add a 6th. The reality is that in order to succeed at OF promotion, you have to spend the time to actually learn and excel at one platform before you add more to your marketing stack. Those agencies could be making 5 times the money with half of the effort just by focusing on one platform and cross-posting to the others. The question is, which platforms are actually worth spending the time to master? This video is a guide for agencies struggling to decide where to apply their focus. There are oceans of outdated information, misunderstandings, and outright lies about OnlyFans marketing out there. So I'm going to cut through the bullshit and tell you exactly which marketing platforms Milky is putting our focus into in 2025 and going into 2026, and where your time is best spent, especially if you're new to OFM. Before we start, I want to make a quick, very exciting announcement. Milky will be reopening our consulting practice at the end of September with room for 2 new clients. We are extremely selective about who we work with, so if you have a model or models that you think have the potential to be superstars, click the link in the description, fill out our application form, and join our waitlist. Now, the format of this video is going to be a little bit different than most, so please keep in mind that in all cases, I'm rating these platforms specifically for how useful they are for OnlyFans promotion. I'm not talking about for recruiting, B2B use cases, or in-app monetization tools. Only OF promotion. For each platform, I'm going to be evaluating it on 5 factors, followed by an overall and a placement on the tier list. The 5 factors are: 1. Design and incentives. What is this platform designed to do? And what types of content does it incentivize and promote? For example, X.com is a text-first platform, but if you try to approach Instagram with a text-first mindset, you're not going to do well. It's important to understand the content each platform promotes so that you can work with their content delivery algorithms instead of against it. The second is reach and demographics. How many people are on the platform, and is the demographic composition favorable for OnlyFans promotion? For instance, LinkedIn has over 1 billion users and the highest average income user base of any social media platform. But due to both the LinkedIn terms of service and its more professional user base, it's not a viable platform for OF promotion. The third category is moderation. How friendly is the platform to OnlyFans creators? What types of content are allowed? How common are bans? And how difficult is it to recover or appeal a banned account? The fourth category is growth. Starting from 0, how quickly can you establish and grow a creator's account on the platform? And finally, conversion. How easy is it to get people off of that social media platform and onto OnlyFans to start extracting value? And at what rate do they convert? Our first platform is TikTok. From a platform design perspective, TikTok is designed for pure virality through algorithmic discovery. It is 100% about figuring out what your content preferences are and then pushing the most addictive, engaging content possible directly to your feed. TikTok's short-form video content algorithm is so powerful that it's completely shifted what other social media platforms were forced to prioritize in order to compete. And it's in large part responsible for Instagram's new emphasis on Reels and YouTube's emphasis on Shorts. Besides catapulting short-form video into the spotlight, TikTok also popularized the concept of a For You page, which quickly became the standard for all other platforms, irrespective of the content they serve. This is a huge innovation, and I want to double click on it here because it is now so ubiquitous that it's easy to forget that it's not always how content got served. It used to be the case that people primarily searched for the content they wanted to watch. If I was a chef and I wanted to watch a Korean cooking video, I'd have to search Korean cooking video. Now, once the platform recognizes that I have an interest in cooking, this is why platforms ask what type of content you enjoy as part of the onboarding process, it'll just immediately serve me a variety of cooking content. And then based on what I interact with, it'll refine the content that it serves me automatically until I'm only receiving content that's relevant to me. It completely takes agency out of the user's hands. And this is important because it turns media consumption into a passive activity that rewards whoever can make the most addictive content that is algorithmically identifiable. That is to say, fits an obvious niche, not the most searchable. They have more recently started heavily pushing live content, meaning it's a great platform for dipping your toes into live streaming, and you can both grow your account and get huge influxes of subscribers every time you go live. However, for reasons I'll discuss in the moderation section, I would be careful with the frequency and duration of live streams. All that to say, TikTok is the dumb platform. It is designed for low IQ, low impulse control, low agency consumption, and it rewards creators who make the content equivalent of crack cocaine. Whoever can smash that dopamine button the hardest and the most consistently is going to win on TikTok. And if this is the platform that you choose to master, you need to make content that appeals to the lowest common denominator. Our ideal customers can definitely be found in large numbers on TikTok if you know how to properly exploit the algorithm. And it's very friendly to beginners even if you're totally new to organic social, because as an OFM, you probably probably already have a good idea of how to hijack your customers' dopamine reward pathways through chatting. As far as reach, TikTok has over 1.5 billion active monthly users, which makes it one of the highest reach platforms. However, TikTok is a perfect way to illustrate that user quantity and user quality are vastly different metrics. Of those 1.5 billion active users, about 150 million are based in the US, which is half of the US population. And that's great for OFM. The downside is that a majority of TikTok's non-US users are in third world countries with low disposable income. And in my experience, it's a bit harder to sculpt your demographics due to the sheer volume of non-US users. But this is a forgivable shortcoming on its own. To keep things simple, I'm only going to talk about the demographic composition of the US user base, since that's what we're probably trying to target. We start to see the real cracks form with TikTok's US demographic composition, age and gender specifically. TikTok skews very young. Over 30% of US users are under 18, meaning that in addition to having no disposable income, it is actually illegal for them to purchase our product even if they wanted to. An additional 25% of users are 18 to 25. Again, very unlikely to have much disposable income. In addition, TikTok's user base also skews heavily female in the US, and even worse, heavily poor. Around 40% of households making $30,000 to $69,000 per year are TikTok users, with an additional 37% of households below the poverty line of under $30,000 per year. The TLDR here is that while half of the US population uses TikTok, it is the youngest, poorest, most female half, which means that although you might reach a lot of them, a smaller percentage of those leads are going to convert to paid subscribers, and they're very likely to be lower than average LTV. Long story short, you're going to get a lot of attention, but it's not necessarily from the people that you want. Moderation is another knock against TikTok. TikTok moderation is quite strict compared to many other platforms, likely because it has so many users under the age of 18. And worse, their moderation team and enforcement policy can at times feel both arbitrary and insanely harsh. I've had a model lose an account with no opportunity for appeal because users mass reported her for being underage, despite the fact that the model was very obviously in her mid-20s and she has boobs the size of an average human's torso. Anecdotally, my experience is that while TikTok Live is amazing for growth, it also increases the surface area risk for bans because live reports are taken super seriously by TikTok moderators, and once they make a decision, they very rarely walk it back. There are a number of factors at play, but the biggest one is that their appeal system is garbage, and I've never heard back from their China-based customer support team, despite filing numerous reports and sending probably a dozen emails over my time on the platform. Growth is the single best thing about TikTok, and it beats out nearly every other platform on this list on that metric. You can easily land a viral reel with millions of views from your very first post on a new account, regardless of follower count. And for a long time, this made TikTok the new platform of choice for OF creators, especially during the COVID era. Being able to build up a six-figure following in a matter of weeks off of the back of some banger content is, of course, a huge reach amplifier. However, the quantity versus quality issue comes up once again here. Yes, you're going to grow a following faster on TikTok than nearly any other platform, but due to the poor demographic composition of the average TikTok user base I mentioned before, along with the issues with conversion that I'm about to talk about, unfortunately, that following doesn't translate as favorably into dollars as it might on other platforms. And conversion is where TikTok really falls apart. The biggest problem with converting TikTok views into OnlyFans subscriptions is the lack of an on-platform conversion mechanism. Of all the platforms I talk about in this video, TikTok is the only one that doesn't allow any kind of link in bio. In fact, the only link that they will allow is a link to Instagram. This makes perfect sense from a business perspective because TikTok is doing everything in their power to push TikTok Shop, their live shopping product, which is a colossal moneymaker for them. They want to incentivize users to buy products in-app, which is great for physical products that appeal to TikTok's core demo, but terrible for us because we're a services industry. It's easy for a reasonable person to think, well, all somebody has to do is click the Instagram link and then they'll be able to click the link in bio and subscribe to the OF from there. But that type of thinking indicates a lack of understanding of user behavior. To put things in perspective, in e-commerce, it's widely accepted that for every additional step that you put between a user and a checkout screen, conversion rate drops by about 30%. Once you get to checkout, 60 to 80% of users straight up abandon the cart if they need to do anything more than just click pay now. This is why products like Google Pay and Link exist. Eliminating friction between desire and payment is one of the fastest ways to increase sales. And on top of all of that, keep in mind that TikTok is the mouth breather platform. These users can barely tie their own shoes without shitting their pants, so to expect them to voluntarily undergo the inconvenience of clicking multiple links in order to spend money on your model is generous at best. The cherry on top is that since you can't get clicks on the platform, it's extremely difficult to directly measure attribution and determine how effective the platform actually is, besides paying extremely close attention to spikes in subscribers that line up with viral posts, and that's far from a reliable tracking mechanism. Overall, TikTok in 2025 is not the powerhouse that it used to be. And that's reflected in how the biggest agencies in the world are allocating resources to it right now. It's got a lot going against it. I suspect a lot of creators got spooked by the fact that TikTok was almost banned in the United States in early 2025 and pulled back from the platform. And it seems like TikTok is investing a lot more into live streaming and live shopping than the short-form video content that made it popular. Even huge creators like Camila Araujo, who have almost 10 million followers on TikTok, have gone down to one post a day or fewer. For reference, as recently as January of this year, Camila was posting original content as frequently as 5 times a day. Currently, Milky is still posting content on TikTok, but we're not creating original content specifically for the TikTok platform. Instead, we're just cross-posting content that we create for our #1 platform, which, be patient, I'll share with you soon. However, I wouldn't completely count out TikTok for OF promotion. At the very least, it's still good for pushing people to your model's Instagram, which is primarily how it's utilized by OFMs today. And having a big TikTok following makes it much easier to grow new Instagram accounts quickly, which can be a major advantage. This platform is largely responsible for the social media landscape as we know it today, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it make a major comeback at some point. So while I wouldn't advocate for going all in on TikTok, I think it would be wise to, at the very least, have one account per model where you simply repost the short-form content you make for other platforms. I also think that if you can somehow figure out a way to get around the moderation issues with live streaming, you could crush on TikTok Live. And if you have a product that the model can shill, TikTok Shop could also be a huge area of opportunity. But the core platform just has too many problems to be attractive for Milky right now, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Overall, I give TikTok a C. While it's amazing for growth and it has some potentially massive areas of opportunity that are underexplored for OFM, it's ultimately held back from being a great platform by its conversion rate issues, its average demographics, and its terrible moderation policies. And I wouldn't recommend making it your agency's primary focus in 2025. Next, we have X.com. And X is very unique in that it's the only text-first platform on this list. In a landscape that's dominated by images and short-form video, your performance on X is primarily a function of how good of a writer you are. And although you can and absolutely should incorporate images and video into your X posting strategy, the specific image or video itself matters less than the words you pair with them. In addition, on nearly every other social media platform, the most important metric by far is average watch time. But since X is text-based, success is almost 100% about engagement, specifically comments. From a design and incentive perspective, X is one of the most interesting and volatile platforms in the entire social ecosystem due to its controversy-focused service algorithm. Elon's acquisition fundamentally rewired the platform's goals. Instead of being optimized for social interaction or entertainment, it's now structured around keeping users plugged into trending discourse, usually through outrage, controversy, or tribal alignment. The platform rewards content that sparks conversation, and specifically arguments, and pushes posts that generate replies far more than likes or shares. In other words, if you want to grow on X, your job is to write posts that get people talking back and utilizing controversy. Models who post on X need to develop a distinctive voice and worldview, and learn to write in a way that provokes curiosity, laughter, anger, or strong agreement and disagreement. I call this optimizing for polarity. The more polarizing your tone is, the better. If a model is witty, edgy, or especially politically charged, political stuff does amazing on X, or you have the creative processes in place to pretend to be those things for her, that would be ideal, obviously. X is one of the highest leverage platforms out there, and you can build an insanely dedicated and invested following. From a reach standpoint, X currently has around 600 million active users, which is a lot smaller than platforms like TikTok or Instagram, less than half, in fact. However, the user quality is much, much higher, especially for OFM. Unlike TikTok's underage, broke, female skewing base, X's core demo is overwhelmingly adult, male, and wealthy. X's user base is disproportionately high-income tech and crypto guys, finance bros, libertarians, digital nomads, some of the highest LTV customers in the OF ecosystem. These are men with money, loneliness, and a chronic need to feel like understood and intellectually validated, if that makes sense. If you can position your model as being ideologically aligned with that group in a way that feels genuine, X is a goldmine. On conversion, X actually rates pretty well. It allows full links in bio, and you can share links in comments without being penalized. Although, that being said, you should never, ever, ever put an external link in the actual post body or you will get nuked on reach. Unlike TikTok DMs, which basically nobody uses, XDMs are a core feature of the platform and are thus amazing as a conversion tool. And one of the easiest ways to capitalize on this is to set up comment to DM automations based on trigger words using automation tools like ManyChat that I've talked about in other videos. For example, some people will use a trick where they say like comment hello to get a free trial link to my OF or something like that. While the platform moderation expression is somewhat opaque and it can change with Elon's moods, quite frankly. X is one of the least censored platforms for OF-adjacent content in 2025. Sex workers are still shadow banned from time to time, but actual account bans are rare unless you're posting truly disgusting shit. I'm not personally a fan of posting NSFW content on any public feeds. Like, I don't think you should just be like basically leaking your model's content, but I do know that some agencies and models have had success putting previews or even full-length content on X. From what I see, that's more for established porn stars than amateur models, but still something that you can do. Growth is what I would call the main drawback of X because it requires a completely different skill set from other platforms. You can't just repost thirst traps or lip syncs. You have to write, and you have to write in a way that demonstrates a very deep understanding of your audience. Most OnlyFans models and OnlyFans managers are not strong copywriters, and that makes X a hard platform to scale unless your actual model is like unusually sharp or you have a content strategist who can write daily tweets for them. Growth on X tends to be highly spiky, not a smooth, consistent climb. So you might go viral off of a banger tweet and then get no followers the following week despite posting daily. You need to have a high volume of posts and frequent bangers. The more often you can hijack people's attention with super outrageous, highly polarizing posts, the better. But a consistent dribble of like milquetoast opinions and like bland posts is just not going to do it. Overall, X is still a strong platform in 2025, and it has some of the best demographics. Again, highly skewed towards high-income, tech-savvy dorks who have all of the wealth and disposable income to throw at models. But because it requires such a different skill set from other platforms to consistently do well, it's way harder to build around, and your successes don't really translate to your other funnels. Like, making a banger tweet is not going to give you the skills to make a banger piece of video content. One way to get around this is the Alex Hormozi method, and he's talked about this publicly. He uses the ideas that he posts on X as fuel for his short and long form content. So if he gets a viral tweet, he'll figure out a way to create video content around that tweet. But again, ultimately, X is only going to be worth your agency's time if you have a really exceptional writer or writers on staff who just get the platform, and you have to have the processes in place in order to convert winning tweets into winning video content. So I give X a B. If you're truly amazing at it, it could very well be your agency's primary focus, but most agencies just don't have what it takes to put out the content that consistently performs well on X, and most models are probably not going to want to risk getting canceled or getting defamed because the content that they're putting out is super inflammatory or like politically oriented or really the stuff that is required to win on X. Luckily, you can still get some juice out of it by reposting videos and photos from other platforms and just putting a little bit of extra effort into captioning. But if you're not a strong writer, I wouldn't recommend X as your primary platform. Now we talk about Instagram. And you can't talk about social media without talking about Meta, and you can't talk about Meta without talking about Instagram. Facebook, which is Meta's first product, was the platform that popularized the very concept of social media. And it shouldn't surprise anybody that they continue to dominate the industry that they basically created. There's one important thing that is worth mentioning that I haven't talked about with the other platforms, and that's longevity. Of all of the big players in social media, Meta has been around the longest and has always been insanely competitive in defending its market share, which is why it's the 6th largest public company in the world at the time of this writing. And you might not have thought of this before, but this matters a lot for OFMs because we don't want to invest a ton of time into learning the nuances of a platform that won't exist in a few years. Twitter went through a very messy private acquisition a few years ago, and its fate was super uncertain. It's still not clear if it's a viable business. TikTok was nearly banned in the US earlier this year, and many social media applications like MySpace and Vine, so on, have come and gone. So it's a very safe bet that Meta is here to stay, and investing in learning their platforms is an excellent use of time because they're going to be around forever. From a design and incentive structure standpoint, Instagram is probably the most versatile platform in the entire social media ecosystem. Because it's so multidimensional, it rewards you for every single skill that you need to develop as a marketer. Aesthetics, branding, short-form filmmaking, photography, parasocial relationship building, storytelling, and dozens of other skills. What makes IG so powerful is that it allows you to create an entire content ecosystem around your model on a single platform. Reels allow you to consistently go viral and grow accounts fast. Stories allow you to deepen parasocial relationships and provide intimate moments for your most dedicated fans. Carousels give you more depth and their amazing conversion tools, and DMs give you direct contact with fans at scale through many chat automations. No other platform combines those layers into one cohesive ecosystem in the way that Instagram does. And Instagram has around 2 billion monthly active users, the second largest of the platforms in this video, only getting beat out by YouTube, with over 150 million of those being in the US, almost identical to TikTok. Unlike TikTok, however, the Instagram audience skews older, wealthier, and more male. Instagram's demographic sweet spot perfectly overlaps with high-value OF buyers. Over 54% of IG's male US users fall in the 18 to 34 range, but critically, almost 32.6% are aged 35 to 54, which is exactly the demographic that we want because they're most likely likely to have peak disposable income and a willingness to pay for intimacy. On an income basis, 58% of US Instagram users come from households earning $100,000 or more per year, whereas TikTok has almost the same percentage of users in the $70,000 or under bracket. On the moderation front, Instagram isn't perfect, but it's much more lenient than TikTok. You can show a ton of skin as long as the content isn't hypersexual. Yes, shadow bans happen, but they're also typically very easy to resolve. 9 times out of 10, Instagram will tell you which piece of content broke the rules, and they'll give you the opportunity to either appeal it or delete it. And in a majority of cases, just deleting the content will immediately restore your account to good standing. As long as you avoid posting hypersexual content that is in flagrant violation of their terms of service, you're probably going to be okay. Even if an account does get flagged or fully banned, recoveries and appeals are much more likely than they are on TikTok, and it's fairly easy to find people who have insider relationships with meta reps that provide account unbans as a paid service. So Instagram looks great on incentives, it looks great on reach, it looks great on demographics. Everything looks good so far, but what kind of conversion tools does Instagram provide? Not only do you get links in bio, you also get links in stories, which allow you to constantly A/B test new ad copy and offers with near perfect attribution. Instagram DMs are also an incredibly powerful conversion tool, especially once you plug in automation tools like ManyChat. Instagram gives you all the tools you need to convert directly inside the platform without ever needing someone to leave the app. This is the holy grail of organic marketing, getting people to the checkout page without asking them to jump through a bunch of unnecessary hoops. Instagram also crushes on the growth metric. In our opinion, Instagram is now on the same level, maybe even better for growth than TikTok. The Reels algorithm has improved dramatically over time, and because there are so many different features that increase exposure surface area for your models, one tactic that Milky has leveraged to tremendous success is launching new alternative accounts for creators with a large primary page that serve one type of extremely niched original content. As an example, let's say try-on hauls with a little bit of a personal flair. Using stories, we push traffic from the main account to the new account. And typically within 30 to 60 days, that account will have over 100,000 followers. Not only does this increase net new followers, it ensures that your existing fan base gets additional exposures to your model every time they open the app, and eventually they're much more likely to break down and pay that sweet $3.65 to see your models whole. Overall, Instagram is an amazing platform that seems to only be getting better both for OFM and in general. Instagram is where about 70% of Milky's average daily paid subs come from, and we will continue to be investing time and resources into it because it keeps paying back dividends. And we strongly recommend your agency do the same. The only true downside to Instagram is that it's a little bit more labor intensive than other platforms to utilize fully, since to get the most out of it, you need to understand all of its features. It's not just enough to post reels. You want a full content stack. So stories, DMs, captions, carousels, pin posts, CTA strategy, etc. There's a ton of competition too, but if you take the time to learn IG and all of its features, it will pay you back and then some. So for all of these reasons, Instagram goes into the S tier. So now I'm going to talk briefly about both YouTube and YouTube Shorts. I'm treating them as separate platforms because the content delivery algorithm and the user experience are so wildly different that the only thing they really have in common is the word YouTube in their name. So let's start with YouTube original recipe, long form content. Because for reasons I'll explain shortly, it doesn't make much sense to post shorts at all unless you also have a full YouTube presence behind it. YouTube is typically not a platform that most people think of when it comes to OnlyFans management, but I think it should be. From a platform design and incentive standpoint, it is basically everything we could dream of. You get a highly engaged, long attention span audience, precise algorithmic targeting, fantastic demographics, and most importantly, very high purchasing intent and receptiveness to call to action. It's the only major platform that's built around intentional discovery and long-form storytelling, meaning it's an opportunity to create much deeper parasocial relationships than you could ever build with a bunch of 15-second reels. But that's also what makes it so much harder to succeed on. YouTube is not a fast-growth dopamine machine like Instagram or TikTok. It requires patience, effort, and craft, plus a much deeper understanding of your audience. In terms of reach, YouTube is holy grail territory. It's got over 2.7 billion monthly active users, which is the largest by far, 253 million US users, which is like 2/3 of the population, if not more, and one of the highest concentrations of monetizable adults anywhere online. Roughly 39% of users are aged 25 to 44, with another 20% aged 45 plus, and YouTube's audience skews slightly male, wealthier, and better educated than the average social platform. The downside is that growth is brutal. YouTube is a massive time sink with a steep learning curve. Starting from zero takes intense effort, and even with a full-time editor, it takes me a full week to put out just one high-quality video. And that's just a camera, a microphone, and a script. Scripts and editing alone eat up a majority of the time. And it's not just the content. Thumbnails, titles, intros, and retention structure matter just as much as the actual substance. Packaging is half of the game. But despite this channel being so tiny, I get so many leads for Milky's products and services that I've had to start a wait list, and I've had to move Harpoon to an application-based system so we don't take on more users than we can actually onboard. This is why I'm so incredibly bullish on YouTube. Even if your view count is tiny, if you nail down your target audience, the purchasing intent and the audience quality is so high, it almost doesn't matter how many views you get. It's not a secret that YouTube is one of, if not the best organic B2B platform, especially for services-based industries. So Milky's investing resources into figuring out if it holds true for OnlyFans promotion as well. Milky's thesis is that the OF creators who will dominate the next 3 to 5 years are the ones who are building brands and establishing a dedicated audience and not just farming dopamine. And because so few OF creators are even trying to compete on YouTube, we're trying to get in on the ground floor. We started experimenting with long-form YouTube for some of our models, and the early signs are promising. Even better, long-form content can be chopped into shorts, TikToks, and Reels, making it a high-leverage investment. It's content that's slow to grow, but it compounds over time, and it feeds into every single one of your platforms, so you still get mileage out of it on those other platforms while you're still growing on YouTube. Now, on to shorts. I'm not going to spend too much time on shorts because, unfortunately, despite its insane reach, again, over 2.5 billion monthly active users and 90 billion daily views, as far as I can tell, it's practically useless for OFM. The algorithm is designed to reward reposted, recognizable content, not original creators. And if you scroll YouTube Shorts for 5 minutes, you'll see exactly what I mean. 90% of what shows up are podcast clips, Marvel brain rot edits, movie scenes with like Sigma grind set music, and deep-fried Peaky Blinders montages. If you're not making content that rides that kind of remix trend loop, you're probably not going to get any exposure. And I haven't figured out yet how to make the shorts algo work for OFM. I'm not saying it's not possible, just that Milky hasn't cracked the code, and we're no longer trying. We've also tested reposting original Reels and TikToks to shorts with very poor results. But even if we could figure out how to consistently go viral on shorts, YouTube recently removed the ability to link out from shorts entirely, meaning you can't add a clickable link to an OF page, a link tree, or even an Instagram. And if you think about how people consume shorts, they're never clicking on your profile to see what other shorts you have. They're just going scroll, scroll, scroll anyway. So it's not like you really are netting followers off of shorts either. The only conversion path is to send viewers to your full YouTube channel and hope that they click through a description link there. But again, that's a multi-step funnel. And as I've said before, each additional step drops your conversion by 30% or more. The caveat to all of this is that if your creator has a successful YouTube channel already, shorts can be effective, not for direct conversion, but for channel growth. You post shorts to feed traffic into your long form content where you actually convert people. But if you're posting shorts with no channel strategy, no hook to longer videos, and no way to click through, then you're just burning time, and those views are useless if you can't monetize them. For that reason, we treat shorts as a support tool for our overarching YouTube strategy, not a primary funnel. Until YouTube reintroduces link capability or changes its algorithm to favor creator content again, shorts go into the F tier, and YouTube proper goes into its own category, which I'm going to call underexplored. While our early testing has been promising, we don't have enough data to conclusively say whether YouTube is worth other agencies investing in. We're taking the risk, and we'll keep you appraised of the results as they come. Reddit is the last social media platform I'm going to cover in depth, and I'm going to start by saying that you should take all of this with a grain of salt because I absolutely fucking hate Reddit. I hate the user base, I hate the platform, I hate the moderation policies, and I hate the content. Reddit is the worst of all worlds, so I'm going to take this opportunity to systematically shit all over it. If TikTok is the dumbest platform, Reddit is the most hostile. They do not want you there making money. They want you there posting free content for late-stage terminal gooners whose entire lives are oriented around consuming and commenting about pornography. Reddit is a community-moderated platform that's built around subreddits, which are like niche topic-specific forums that operate like miniature little authoritarian states. There's no algorithmic discovery, there's no For You page, there's no passive reach. You don't grow on Reddit. You have to ask for permission to speak, and you rarely get the outcomes that you're looking for. Unlike TikTok or Instagram, Reddit doesn't try to figure out what kind of content you enjoy and serve it to you. Instead, it only shows you content from subreddits that you already follow or subreddits that are associated with those subreddits. So if you want new eyeballs, you have to either go viral on a huge subreddit, which won't allow for self-promotion, or you have to manually research and post in dozens of tiny niche subs, most of which have insane rules that require tons of manual inputs and make OFM-style posting functionally impossible. And unlike all of the other platforms we've discussed, moderation on Reddit is not handled by the platform itself. It's handled by unpaid volunteer moderators, often with zero consistency and zero logic. Many subreddits that are theoretically perfect for OM, like niche porn subs for your creator's most specific fetish have ridiculous anti-commercial policies, or worse, they require posters to verify their identity with a timestamp or just straight up dox themselves before they can post. Even on hardcore porn subs, even the most careful posts will get removed, shadow banned, or result in an account permaban if your account is suspected of trying to sell content. Despite spending every waking moment gooning or discussing gooning, these people absolutely hate adult content creators who are trying to make money making adult content. And to make matters worse, many of these subreddits require your account to have seasoning, which is a minimum number of post karma, comment karma, and account age. So if you want to post in the good subreddits, you either have to, one, build out an internal SOP for seasoning dozens of accounts across weeks or months, or two, buy aged accounts from gray market sellers and hope that they don't get flagged and banned. Both of these options are operationally incredibly annoying, and they require resources for very little reward. Even when you do get into a good subreddit, there's no guarantee that your post won't be instantly nuked by a bot or by a mod, and there's constant site-wide bans based on user behavior. Reddit also sucks for growth and reach. Reddit is not built for scale. The best case scenario is that you do manage to establish yourself in a handful of niche subs, but those wins are rare, and often they're not even that great for conversion. So most of the time, growth is capped by subreddit size, post limits, karma requirements. You can't post consistently, you can't cross-promote, there's no way to natively schedule posts, there's no tools for creators, there's no backdoor growth loops, there's no algorithm to push your best stuff forward. It's a fucking nightmare. And cherry on top, Reddit also has a culture of leaks, meaning that even if people like your model's content, they're going to try their hardest to find it for free and then post it for free before they even think about subbing to the page and paying for it. So there's no momentum, it's just endless friction. Demographics are, in theory, the only thing that Reddit has going for it, because it's where you can find these gooners where they congregate. And these are men who are lonely, they're addicted to porn, they're usually over 30, terrible lives, they're interested in left-wing politics and anime and telling people about their Funko Pops collection. These men are losers, but they're losers with a little bit of money to spend specifically on porn. And you can literally find the perfect psychological profile for a whale here. And if you could consistently post there, it would maybe make money, but you can't, or at least not reliably and not at scale and not natively. So the theoretical power of the audience is irrelevant because the platform infrastructure prevents access. On conversion, technically, Reddit does allow clickable links in some subreddits and post types, and you can have a link in your personal bio. And yes, if your posts stick and people engage, some will click. But in most cases, you're not allowed to link at all, or doing so will get your post removed. Even if you do manage to get a link through, conversion behavior is poor. Redditors are skeptical, they're anti-commercial, and they pride themselves on spotting shills and fakes, which obviously in this case we are, kind of frauds. Most clicks come from curiosity, not intent, and they rarely translate into paid subscriptions. From what I've discussed with other agency owners, it seems like the tactic is usually to offer a free trial link. So there's not even a guarantee that you're going to make any money off of these subs. Overall, Reddit is a platform that looks incredible on paper. You have niche audiences, you have high male skew, you have a intellectual user base, and you have emotionally vulnerable posting environments. But in practice, it's the most hostile, it's the least scalable, and it's the most labor-intensive platform on this list. Even if you do everything right, you are still relying on the whims of unpaid neckbeard moderators with a hero complex, with a zero-tolerance policy towards anything even remotely salesy. You are not building anything on Reddit. You're tiptoeing through a minefield, trying not to get banned just for existing. So for all of these reasons, Milky no longer uses Reddit promotion at all. We will not be investing in Reddit in the future, and we give Reddit an F tier. Don't even bother. You might have noticed that there are two major platforms that I didn't cover in this video, Snapchat and Facebook. And the reason that I didn't include them is simple. Milky doesn't use them, we never have, and I don't want to waste your time pretending to be an expert on tools that we haven't actually tested. That doesn't mean that they're bad or that they're ineffective, just that they've never been a part of our marketing stack. So if you came here hoping for Snapchat or Facebook strategy, I apologize. I've heard of some agencies doing well with both, but it's not something that I feel confident speaking on directly. If you are getting strong results from Facebook or Snapchat, leave me a comment below or shoot me an email. I would love to hear how you're leveraging them and maybe even feature your agency in a future video. That's the full rundown of every major platform that we've tested at Milky for OnlyFans promotion. The good, the mid, and in the case of Reddit, the dog shit. If there's one takeaway from all of this, it's that you don't need to be everywhere. You just need to be excellent somewhere. The agencies that win aren't the ones that are posting on 12 different platforms and trying to master all of them. They're the ones that master one, extract every drop of value from it, and then build a scalable workflow around what's actually working. To help you do that, I've put together a free resource, Milky's complete organic social production workflow, including the exact tools, roles, and processes that we use to scale creators to millions of followers and millions in revenue. It also comes with a short video guide breaking it all down. If you want to grab a copy, check the link in the description and sign up for our email list. You'll get the PDF delivered straight to your inbox, plus occasional updates when we drop new guides and case studies to help you grow. Thanks for watching, and if this helped you, leave a like. If you disagreed with any of these tier placements and you think I'm an idiot, drop a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.